Good evening. I call the December 3rd, 2020 meeting of the Johnson City Board of Commissioners to order. Tonight we're meeting electronically under the authority of Governor Lee's Executive Order 68. We will also, this meeting is also live streamed and it can be viewed on video on the Johnson City website after the meeting is complete. Ms. Jennings, to meet the requirements of the order, would you call the roll of the commissioners?
Happy to. Commissioner Calhoun.
Here.
Commissioner Fowler.
Here.
Commissioner Hunter.
Here.
Vice Mayor Wise.
Yes.
The December 3rd,
Mayor
2020
Brock.
meeting of the Johnson City Board of Commissioners to
Here.
order.
Okay, we've got a loop feedback there, I think. Are we good? Okay, are we good?
Yes.
Okay, good, very good. Tonight, our invocation, we're honored to have the invocation tonight by our departing commissioner, Dr. Larry Calhoun. This is his last meeting and he has agreed to do our invocation tonight to get us started. Dr. Calhoun.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to serve, and we thank you for the people that have stepped up and offered themselves in service. We come before you asking for wisdom in the decisions that are to be made tonight, that they would be for your glorification. And tonight especially, Father, we pray for our country and our world that vaccines would come quickly and be effective. And in the meantime, Father, we lift up those that are suffering in hospitals. We pray for healing, and we pray for peace of mind, and we pray for the families that are watching over their family members. And Father, please take care of the healthcare workers that are representing all of us on the front lines tonight, that you would take care of them and keep them safe and give them strength. And also that peace of mind that you that passes all understanding that you promised us. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner Calhoun. We will have a flag now on the screen for the pledge. If you would rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Mr. Peterson, we will turn it over to you to get started. And we do have one item to add to the agenda that's not on here. It should go under proclamations. I guess we have a little something for Commissioner Calhoun, and we'll do that after passing the minutes.
Okay, your first order of business is consideration of the minutes from your meeting held on Thursday, November the 19th. Move for approval.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any other discussion on the minutes? Ms. Jennings.
Commissioner Calhoun.
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler.
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise.
Yes.
Mayor Brock.
Yes. Okay, Commissioner Calhoun, there are a few things we'd like to say to you tonight. So you may want to come in real close to your screen so we can talk to you. If you were here in person, we'd all be giving you a hug and everything, but we can't. We'll have to give you air hugs. But each one of the commissioners just has a little word they'd like to say, and then we've got something we want to present to you. So Commissioner Fowler, you're in the room with Pete there. Would you like to start us off?
I'd be happy to. I've known Larry for a long time. We've been friends. We've been in Sunday school together. We've been in men's group together. We've been on a bunch of golf trips and played, and got to know him very, very well. When Ralph M. Brockman passed away unexpectedly, Larry stepped up when he was needed. And I think Ralph would have been very proud to have Larry substitute in for him. I think he would be happy with who we got to take his place. And that's saying a lot because I thought a lot of Ralph. And Larry's always dependable, always trustworthy. He's been a very conscientious commissioner, which I've appreciated a lot, read everything, been up on top of things, and that's really helped the last 2 years. So thank you, Larry, for doing that for us.
Good. Commissioner Hunter?
Sure. I feel honored and fortunate to serve with each and every one of you, but, Larry, I kind of feel like you've been somewhat of a mentor, even though, we've served about the same amount of time on the commission, and I hate that you're being put out of commission, but honestly, I've loved to learn how you work and operate and process information and deal with people and situations. It's been great to watch and learn from. I think having you on the board has made myself and the others better commissioners for having you on here. And you've really been a role model for leadership excellence, in my opinion. And I thank you for being a servant leader, both on the commission and through your career and through your involvement in the community. And hopefully, I can live up to the type of man you've been over these years. So thanks again.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
As Commissioner Fowler already indicated, the circumstances upon which you entered this commission were different than those most commissioners follow. And so we were in uncharted territory when we were dealing with the sudden loss of a commission colleague, and one who really was always prepared and thoughtful in his engagement. And we certainly miss Ralph. But it also means that you came to the commission in another unique way, and that at least the majority of us had a direct role in appointing you to fill the balance of Ralph's term. And that's not something that is true about most commissioners. And so I was one of the 3 who remain on this commission that were a part of appointing you. And I can say that over the last 2 years, there's never been a second that I've regretted that decision, and have been grateful to have you fill out the balance of Ralph's term, and have done so honorably, and you will certainly be missed.
Well, Larry, you and I have known each other for a long, long time, and we've done a lot of different things together, from running marathons to teaching and being a part of the educational system and healthcare in this community, and have connected many times over the years. And so serving with you has just been another chapter in our book together. I remember when you first came and you talked about, as we all know, Ralph wore cowboy boots. And so you said, these are going to be some really big boots to fill. But you brought your own brand of shoes to us. And that was a brand of experience and calmness. You came into a commission that was just in turmoil after losing Ralph so suddenly, like we did. And so you brought a lot of calm to us. And I think, we're just kind of a good hub in our commission to come in. And so we all kind of got settled and moving forward and looking at the future. So you've just been an invaluable person on our commission. It is a privilege to serve the community, but it's also a sacrifice as well, because it takes a lot of time. And so for you to give of your time when kind of called on, for this, we want to say thank you and extend a lot of gratitude, because it not only affects you, but it affects family as well. So we hope that you, and we'll hear from you in just a minute, will have seen this as some very valuable time, and what you've learned from city life, and what it's like to be in the position we are that can influence a city and its development. So we are so appreciative of you, and we hope you will not go away. I know you're Dean Emeritus at ETSU, and so you're going to be Commissioner Emeritus here with us, Advisor Emeritus for sure. So we appreciate that. Now, we're going to try something with all this technology. We have a little plaque we want to present you, and Wendy's going to put it on the screen, and here it is. And it says, Commissioner Larry Calhoun, we honor you with much appreciation and gratitude for your dedication and unwavering support to our board and to our city. Now, I'm going to try something. We haven't practiced this yet, but I'm going to kind of take my finger and send it over to you, and it's going to come through the air. Did you get it?
Wow, you're really good.
Look at that. It
Look at
worked.
this. Amazing. Did Bright Ridge have anything to do with that? That's amazing.
10 gigs.
Thank Bright Ridge.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the 10 gigs. That's what it'll do.
Well, this is gorgeous. This is really beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. All right, my turn.
Yes.
All right. Well, I won't be long, unless you want me to. But first and foremost, I think it's really, really important. It's already been mentioned that nobody replaces Ralph Van Brocklin, and my intent was never, ever to do that. I can only hope that he would have been proud of my effort. Outcome is something different, but coming in and watching him and how he loved this city, it was real important to me to try to do the best I could for these 2 years. And I want to thank each of you for this opportunity. And people say, well, you weren't elected. Well, I was in the closest vote ever, 4 votes. I won by 4 votes. 4-0. And thanking the 3 that are there, and also Mayor Tanita for that honor during a very difficult time. And John, it's been, John's our teenager on the city commission, and it's been wonderful to watch him grow over the last 2 years. To be part of the team, it's critical that team not agree all the time, but they have the best interest of outcome all the time. And I really feel strongly that our commission had the best interest and has the best interest of Johnson City at heart. And we didn't agree all the time, still don't, but I never ever felt that any of the 5 of us had anything other than the best interest of Johnson City at heart. And it's really special to be able to see from the inside how things are done. The time commitment that commission, I can say this now that I'm not a commissioner in a few hours, I'm just absolutely blown away by the amount of time that a city commissioner gives to the city and the citizens. And for people that do this for 8 years and that length of time, and being mayor and all of those things, it's just unbelievable. So I want to thank all of y'all for letting me look behind this curtain, if you will. And I want to thank, my wife, Kathy, who really put up with me during all this time and all the time that was put into this. And then my ETSU bosses who said this is important and allowed me the opportunity right before I retired to be part of the city commission. I've gotten an unbelievable education, and to understand what it takes to run a city, you can't get that just by watching or reading. You've got to be on the inside and looking at this, and I am just blown away. And Mr. Peterson, I would start by mentioning a bunch of names and get in really big trouble. So I'm not going to mention any of the names of the people that are employed by our city, but I am just unbelievably impressed with the people that take care of us in the cities. The citizens really need to be proud of Johnson City. And I'm excited because my children and their families get to live in this city, and especially for for George and Teddy and Palmer to grow up in Johnson City. And I hope that maybe they remember that I might have had just a little bit to do with making this a better place. It's been an honor to be part of the Sesquicentennial Commission, if you will. That doesn't come around that often, and to be here to see that was just unbelievable. And finally, I think Aaron's going to do a great job. I think this commission and this city is fortunate to have him to join this team. And Aaron, you're fortunate to join this great team that's already here. So I'm excited for all the things that are going to happen. Now, the last thing I have to do is figure out what I'm going to do with all of this free time that I have. I was told, meetings every other Monday and every other Thursday. Aaron, you should have read the fine print, my friend. There's a lot more time that's required for this, but it's something that you'll truly, truly enjoy. So all of you, thank you so much. And now we got an agenda to take care of.
Yeah. Well, we're not quite through yet. We've heard from all the commissioners. I've left Pete to the end because Pete, you've worked with, I don't know if you've counted up the number of commissioners you've worked with over the years. I'm sure it's in the triple digits or at least double digits for sure. But I just wanted to kind of leave the last word to you now that the commissioners have weighed in and give your goodbyes.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Calhoun, I have admired you from afar for several decades with your involvement in the community and the university. The extraordinary effort that you and others put forward to get the pharmacy school up and running was a true statement and reflective of your knowledge, your power of persuasion, your insight and stick-to-itiveness. That was no small challenge that you took from Governor Bredesen to raise the money to start that school. And you did it quickly, and you did it much quicker than the time frame you were given to operate in. And I knew coming in when you and Mrs. Calhoun decided to give up you for 2 years and to work as a city commissioner, that we had someone that was going to be a great leader, someone that was understood people, understood process, and was dedicated to doing the right thing and ensuring that whatever we did was in the best interest of the majority of the people that we serve and work for. So, I guess I'll say I'm saddened to see you leave. You have been truly a joy to work with. It's been a real privilege for me, and I can certainly say that the staff have all grown and are better people as a result of working in and around you and working with you. I hope you enjoy your, I'm going to guess at least 25 hours a week free time now, by the time you include interruptions at lunch by people asking questions and preparation for meetings and coming to meetings and going to planning commission meetings. And, for those folks that think that being a city commissioner involves going to 2 meetings a month for 2 to 3 hours, they're a little misled with what's behind the curtain, aren't they, sir? So a great big thanks to you. I wish you lots of enjoyment in your new endeavors and look forward to continuing to work with you for many years to come in some capacity or another. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm thankful for it, Larry. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thank all of you.
Well, Larry, if we judge by the amount of time we took to say goodbye to you, there's some commissioners we just kick off and just say, see ya. But I think it reflects how much we care for you and the service you've given the city. So thank you again so much. All right, Mr. Peterson, let's get on with the agenda then.
All right, your next order of business is consideration of a delivery license application for Johnson City Brewing Company located at 257 East Main Street The appropriate reviews having been made, finding no disqualifying factors, the recommendation is for your approval.
Commissioners, do we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Any other discussion on this item? And this was this is Johnson City Brewing Company, right?
Yes, ma'am, this will allow them to deliver their product.
Very good. Okay.
We
Ms.
do have
Jennings,
them on the line as well.
pardon me?
We have them on the line as well if you.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Webmaster. Are there any questions of the applicant?
Mayor Brock, this is Kat Latham. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
We're doing well. I just wanted to ask if you all had received my email in reference to this.
We did a couple of weeks ago or a week and a half ago. And you were inquiring about the fee.
Correct.
Yeah, we did. We asked our attorney how the fee was. Well, on Monday night, we had this discussion. And Sonny, would you go ahead and say how it was calculated, the fee for this kind of license?
We arrived at the fee that the city is charging based off of the fees that the state charges for the beer delivery license. The state requires an application fee, and the way that our license is crafted is that it applies to the businesses that do not qualify for the state's delivery license fee. So this is something that's unique. To the best of our knowledge, we're the first to do this in the state to allow these types of businesses to be able to deliver. But the fee is based off of, it's comparable to the state's fees that they're charging. And those are statutory.
Ms. Latham, did you have any follow-up questions to that? Or
Yeah, I guess my question is, why is it necessary for us to be comparable to the state as a local small business? That fee is pretty extraordinary. It really, we don't make enough to really justify it, other than we're trying to give a service to the people. Like the majority of our regular customers are not coming out of their houses right now. Our tap room is not busy. So we are delivering, but not to the extent of, we're making $350, but that's a big chunk of money. And I mean, to some businesses, maybe it isn't, but we're pretty small, and we're just trying to get by here. And so it's a little frustrating when we see such a large sum, and then also the renewal fee is quite substantial as well.
Well, I think to the question, we use state guidelines for the continuity and consistency of, making policy. And, I mean, that's just my best answer on that, unless Mr. Peterson has some comment that he'd like to add to it. Or Janet, you deal a lot with these fees. I think he left the room. Was there anything you could add to that?
No, I think that you really nailed it. We do try to be comparable with what the state charge schedule does dictate.
And it's worth noting the rationale for the change in our ordinance that allowed for the delivery of beer was to equal the playing field, so someone like Johnson City Brewing could deliver their product, because what was happening before that was they just weren't even allowed that option because they didn't have the right combination of factors to contribute to an application. And so the rationale for changing our local rules around that was to try to equalize and create a fairness, so that regardless of whether you're this business or that business, you're being treated in a way that's more consistent. I can certainly appreciate the value of $350 to a small business. At the same time, I'm reluctant to see the city commission getting into a space where we're deciding which small business gets to pay the $200 fee and which one pays the $350. And so I think it was really just a matter of trying, as we've been trying to do through this whole process of treating people equally.
Well, I think though, when you look at those, those delivery amounts, you're looking at, isn't it the state level is because they're delivering food as well, correct?
They are, right.
But I don't
food
think
is
they're
a
paying
much
that.
Food is a much higher dollar amount. That the folks that are delivering food and beer, they're making substantially more than what we're making when we just deliver a 4-pack of beer. Their tickets are looking at, $30 to $100, depending on what's being delivered. We average a ticket of $16 to $25, and that's about it. So it's not really apples and oranges that you're comparing here when you take that state statute, because those folks have more to be able to sell. Do you see what I mean? Their tickets are always going to be a higher level, so they're always going to be making substantially more than a company such as mine that only sells beer.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions by the commission for staff along these lines? Okay.
Mayor Brock, this is Eric. May I say a couple of words?
Certainly, Eric.
Yeah, I just want to say we're looking closely at the dollar, especially during these times here. But we also want to say that we appreciate you all considering this. We appreciate you and Sonny and the commission working with us this year to try and allow us to temporarily suspend rules to allow us to move through. Between you and us and the wall here, it saved our business. And so, any of these things that are new to all of us here, obviously take some time. You all have taken the time to put in on this, and we value that and we appreciate that very much. And, we would like to, as we've submitted the application and we paid that fee, we'd love to use this time to say thank you, and hopefully we can just continue this working relationship. And I know that there's some other places like Davidson County has been working on a law like this. Our statewide Brewers Guild has been working on these things. So like I said, we appreciate you all very much, and we hope to just continue working with you all to make it work for everybody, for the city and for small businesses like ours and the consumer. So I just wanted to say thanks so much, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any other discussion? Okay, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun,
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler,
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise,
Yes.
Mayor Brock.
Yes.
Okay, your next order of business is consideration of the consent agenda, which consists of declaring some old computer equipment as surplus equipment.
All right, this is the shortest consent agenda we've ever had. Is there?
I think you should ask us all if we want to pull it.
Do you want to pull that one item for further discussion?
I think Larry would like us to.
Yeah. Just some of the computer equipment that got hacked, I guess maybe. Okay, is there a motion to pass the consent agenda?
So move.
All right, Commissioner Hunter, is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Calhoun. All right, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun,
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler,
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise,
Yes.
Mayor Brock.
Yes.
I think Penzola's online, isn't he, for a best of PowerPoints for Larry, right?
Yeah, I think that's good. Larry, we also need to thank you because you've always had to vote first. You came in raw to the commission and you got the first vote, and that's a big vote right out there first. We should maybe change it to random or something.
I was considering changing my name to start with a Z or something. I don't know how that works out.
Well, Commissioner Fowler will get to start voting first now. Okay. Okay, let's move on.
Your next order of business is consideration of ordinance number 4758-20. An ordinance to amend Title 12 of the Code of the City of Johnson City, Tennessee regarding adoption of the 2018 International Code Council codes as amended by this ordinance, and repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith. Ready for your consideration on first reading. Just before I turn it over to Dave McClellan or Preston, whichever one's going to do it, I would make note, we had some discussion on Monday night about the amendment dealing with standpipes. And we sent you a revised ordinance out, I guess yesterday, with the explanation that that particular amendment has been deleted after conferring with the fire department. They conceded that that was not a necessary amendment. So Preston, I'll turn it over to you or Dave.
Actually, I'm going to let Dave run with this one. I believe he's got the presentation.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I have, let's see, a slide presentation to share with you here.
Let's see, Wendy, you can go ahead and let Lisa come on. And is there anybody else here for this discussion? We have Chief here tonight. Thank you, Chief, for being here. There's Lisa. And Ben McMurray, how are you tonight?
Doing well, thank you, Mayor.
All right, this is, Wendy had asked if I wanted her to help me do this, and I said no. Now I think I might have wished that she had.
There we go. You're good.
Okay. All right. So basically what we looked to achieve was to find a more focused code that was focused on a regional approach. We tried to focus on state minimums and to eliminate any problematic local amendments. I think we achieved that. I'm not going to go into great detail as the presentation is in the packet, and of course, unless any of you have any questions, I'll be glad to stop and go in detail for any questions you might have. But I'll try to keep it brief. So basically, the instigator for us to make this happen currently was the adoption of the 2018 residential codes made by the state in April. Once they did that, it motivated us to push along our adoption that we knew was imminent. This slide, the first slide, shows the fire marshals adopted codes. Basically, they have the 18 code in residential, and their commercial codes are still back in the 12. However, I've gotten word directly from the state fire marshal's office that these codes will be updated in the next year or the following year. So we thought it most prudent to adopt all simultaneously, so we don't have to go through the process again. Additionally, our adjacent jurisdiction, Kingsport and soon to be Bristol, will be in the 18, either are or will be in the 18 codes for commercial uses. I'll cover that more later. So you can see here the addition of the code runs down the left-hand side. You can see 2018 is at the top. What we're hoping to do is bring all of our codes basically to the 18, except the electrical, which doesn't have an 18-year addition. The most recent addition for that would be the 17, and that's in agreement with the state. You can see in comparison here, the electrical, energy, and residential codes are in line with those that we're proposing. And the bars that show a more updated code to the 18 are the commercial trade and accessibility, which result from the imminent adoption of the 18 codes by the state. So we're trying to keep most everything at the state minimums as the state's adopting. Washington County, who has been alongside with us and in agreement throughout the process, is already in process of adopting the 18 codes with several different appendices. You can see the difference here. They don't have the commercial codes to adopt. The commercial codes are regulated by the state in the county. So in any county that is not a municipality, they only focus on residential. So their residential code includes electrical and energy, where we exempt those out and adopt those individual codes, electrical and energy, as standalone codes. This is comparison through the Tri-Cities. You can see Bristol they're currently on their third reading to upgrade all of their codes to the 18. Kingsport is already there. I did notice in reviewing these slides this evening, actually earlier today while at work, the trade for Kingsport, this is not accurate. Their trade is actually up to the 18. It reflects like ours does on this side. And they do have some minimal amendments, maybe 3 or 4, but they were mostly administrative, nothing that really impacted the work that happens in the field. So I apologize for that inaccuracy there. Regionally, big picture, you'll see state here, what we're proposing in Johnson City here, very similar to Kingsport, almost identical. Some of the amendments and appendices are basically expanded or ready-made amendments, so you don't have to have many local if you don't wish. You can instead go with the internationally recognized appendices. Sometimes appendices even break out and turn into their own code books, which they do often. But Bristol here, again, looking to come to the 18.
Dave, can I interrupt you just a minute?
Absolutely.
So on the Kingsport numbers, when you indicate the code and then have the number across the bottom, that may not be local amendments. That may be exclusively the appendices.
Oh, no, sir. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to add any confusion to that. The amendments are the numbers across the bottom. The appendices are all listed after. You'll see this says commercial, and then they have 28 appendices adopted. And let me add, I've lumped some codes together just to try to make this is an extremely, the matrix that contains all this information is gigantic. So some of it had to be kind of smashed together to help for clarity, even though this still seems to be fairly complicated. The commercial bar, this yellow bar in each one of them, or orange bar, contains a fire code, a commercial building code, and existing building code. So there's 3 codes that are merged into this single bar. So you can see we're proposing 15 appendices, 14 of those from fire, and 4 local amendments.
So had you seen the email? There was an email that came to the commission between Monday and today, citing conversations with specific people, particularly in Kingsport, that seemed to contradict that Kingsport had any local amendments.
I did not, no, sir.
Okay.
But I did review their codes earlier today, which is where this came to my attention. They may be excluding their amendments that are, they may not see them as resulting in a change of work, but I counted all amendments being administrative or not, which means sometimes they just put the city's name here in the middle of this amendment, or things that don't necessarily result in differences that have to be done during construction, but nonetheless, they're still amendments. So I did keep those. They're all represented as such. Now, so the adoption that I studied of theirs is what's available, just as ours is through the state muni code.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now Bristol truly does have none. They have no amendments, but they had many appendices. which one can sometimes make up for the other.
Dave, remind me if you would, the appendices are appendices of the 2018 code?
Yes, or whatever code they're representing. For example, in Bristol, I'm showing residential here, A through K and M through Q. That's for the 2012 code. So it's in representation of whatever code that it's associated with. And I'll give you an example of what an appendices is. Currently, we have the appendix for pools and spas adopted with our residential code. And within that appendix, it tells you things about where to locate the latch on a pool fence, how tall to make the fence, how the door has to swing, details such as that. So an appendix can go into greater detail about any specific thing that might have a need for greater detail than a single amendment. And they're also ready-made and studied by the ICC and anyone that votes on ICC matters. So it's more of an international thing than it is local.
Do our local amendments get reviewed by kind of a jury group like this, as you refer to these appendices?
It matters on the it matters in how they came to be. Sometimes, but not always.
Okay. And I think that may be a follow-up question after we get through the 2018 that we may want to delve into just a little bit more,
Sure.
As we kind of had requested all the amendments really be examined. And okay, let's go ahead.
Absolutely. So this is the last slide, but I'm going to go back to Johnson City here, since that's really where our focus is. Some things I'd like to bring up. Of course, residentially, we still exclude sprinklers. We don't, there's no need to sprinkle at the residential level. This is in line with the state. There is also an exemption that we took from the state, or that we're in agreement with the state, for all arc fault current interrupters. They're optional in non-habitable spaces. So that means habitable spaces are living, sleeping, eating, cooking. Non-habitable are storage areas, bathrooms, things of that nature. So places where you don't really spend much time living, but still have needs for electricity. Also exempt are refrigerated circuits from the arc fault current interrupters, which was a large issue with the home builders. The state recognized that, and we too want to recognize that. Our proposed residential codes are actually verbatim exactly what the state has adopted, and that includes the amendments. All of the amendments that were done at the state level were also done at our level. So that, for example, has been well vetted. And some of the amendments that we have are long-standing, being that some of them I don't know how they came into being, to be honest, and then some of them I know have just been locally adopted. Let's see, electrical, another large bonus or problematic area that's been resolved is the gauge wire that's required for electrical work. Previously, Johnson City required, or currently I should say, Johnson City requires 12 gauge wire, which is a fatter wire. We would like to change to 14, which is thinner, because 14 is what's allowed by the code. We have been more restrictive for quite a few years at this point. And a lot of electricians, builders have had issue with that because it's above and beyond the code. While it is safer, there are many things that we can do that are much safer, but are beyond the code. And we're trying to stick with a minimum to allow our community to move ahead and stay competitive with development, specifically in the region. Last, and as Mr. Peterson mentioned, I'd also like to bring up the elimination of the automatic standpipe requirement that we had previously. I believe that was initiated in 2012 or 13 in that time frame. And the fire chief has agreed that the construction of buildings built around the code as it is currently worded, of the new codes that are being proposed, that is, are sufficient and don't require this additional need. which many developers have had hardship with. As we recently had Mr. Shane Abraham speak to the commission about a hardship that was brought about because of that. I think the development community will applaud the elimination of that requirement. And I think it's really great to know that the fire department stands behind that and sees it as something where safety can be maintained, but that the development community can also be heard. That's the basics I have. I'll be glad to answer any specific questions you may have.
Okay. I'd like Chief Stables to comment, since it was a code that's going to come off. Just and Wendy, could we get the screen back? If you might just comment on how now, if we remove the standpipe ordinance that we or code that we have right now, how it will be handled in the future.
Yes, Mayor. So I did a deeper dive on the code requirements and what was contained within that. It still references high rises, but the mid rise or the low rise, that isn't an issue, and it shouldn't be an issue in development. So I had that discussion with Mr. Peterson and Mr. McClellan, and we're comfortable with removing it. We're going to pump into systems anyway to supplement and augment the pressure in the system. So I'm comfortable with that amendment being removed. I believe it was put in at a different time in the fire department's ability than we're at now. So.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
While we're on the chief, I recall, Chief, you had mentioned that, correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't see need for other local amendments related to fire at a meeting we had a couple weeks ago. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, you are. Yes,
Okay.
you are. The thing I'll say about the two that remained, the first one is dealing with access roads, fire access roads, and fire apparatus access roads. It actually gives the developer a little more flexibility where the city manager has the ability to make some concessions in consultation with me. The second one, there's a lack of clarity, and I did a little deep dive on that one as well. So in the fire code, the sprinkler connection conversation is clear in the code that it's 100 foot. So it's already spelled out for the sprinkler side. For the standpipe side, it leads it to the fire code official. To make that a non-confusing thing for the developer, that's been in the code since 2013, and we decided to leave it in there because it's a consistency that doesn't create a whole lot of chaos from what I've understood. And I'm sure the developers online will be able to tell you if that in fact has been an issue, but I'm not aware of it being an issue.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from commissioners of staff? And then I'd like for our development community, the three representatives who are here, to give their comments so the public can hear the feedback that we've gotten from the development side of the house. Commissioners, any other questions you might have? Or we can go back to it as well. Okay. Lisa Luster is with the Johnson City Home Builders Association. Lisa, I know you've been working with our staff, so why don't you proceed?
I have. I've worked with your staff and I've worked with the state of Tennessee. So as far as we're concerned, we have checked out both documents. We looked over the 2017 NEC. We worked very hard on that with the state of Tennessee. We also looked over what was being adopted from the 2018 IRC and the IECC, which is the Energy Conservation Codes. And from what we can find, you all have done what we've asked, and that is that you acknowledge the hard work that we've done across the state of Tennessee for the past 2+ years, working with the state on their adoption. And our city has actually looked at it and agreed with what we were saying and what has been adopted. And we are very appreciative of that. So the arc fault circuit interrupters were a big bone of contention for us when it came to refrigeration systems. And that was one of our biggest concerns 2 years ago. And we do appreciate the fact that Dave and Preston, that you all have paid attention to that for us and that you're adopting what the state has.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Shane, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing us to say a few words, but I just want to first say we appreciate the city's, the time they spent with us to communicate this, specifically Dave and Preston. And so that helps in being able to kind of hash this out and look at all the different perspectives. And we certainly appreciate the chief's perspective on the standpipe scenario. And I just want to say, I definitely think that the process has continued to improve, and with what's going on internally with the city and even our city commission looking at this in detail. And I would just stress that I think it's important because you guys have a tough job to be able to look at these amendments and look at these different exceptions and things. And if you're not in the building trades, to be able to decide if it's something that's really going to make sense. So having this communication is great. And then I think for future scenarios with future city commissions, the closer we can come to the standard code without the amendments, and certainly there's always going to be need for a few, but keeping those at a minimum, I think makes the job easier for future city commissions, because we have to continue to adopt state mandated codes, but I would think it makes city commissions jobs easier. So I applaud those efforts, and we appreciate everyone's feedback and thoughts on that.
Thanks so much for those comments. We appreciate it. And Mr. McMurray.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I'd like to reiterate what my two colleagues, Ms. Lester and Mr. Abraham, have already repeated. We think that that Dave has reached out to a commercial constructor standpoint for reviewing of these codes. As I stated in our agenda meeting, I feel that general contractors in the commercial field in this area have already begun to address these codes in our daily business. As far as being able to recognize them and deal with them effectively and build within those parameters. I feel that the adoption of these codes will be only more progressive towards the city being able to have uniformity across the region of what we're already seeing. And as always, keeping the amendments down to a minimum level, as Mr. Abraham stated, having that uniformity across this area will lead to less confusion, more standardization, and being able to construct effectively in this area. So again, we're, from the commercial constructor standpoint, we're in support of this adoption of these codes.
Thank you very much, Mr. McMurray. We appreciate the three of y'all coming in tonight, and we kind of closed a loop on one issue that came up Monday night, and we appreciate that. Commissioners, are there any other questions that we have of staff or Mr. Peterson before we move this on first reading?
Mayor, I was going to ask a question one way, but I sort of changed my mind. I was going to ask, Dave, I'm glad you said the word complicated, because it's definitely a foreign language, at least to me. And I was going to ask, can you tell me just simply the differences with, I understand the color bars, et cetera, but the absolute differences in building in different areas. So let me ask, instead of asking that, because that takes it may take another meeting. Let me just ask the people on the screen, both staff and our customers there, is this going to answer the question of, does it level the playing field to where the future commission isn't going to get those calls about, I'm going to build in blank and not in Johnson City because it's easier to build in blank. And maybe it's supposed to be harder to build in Johnson City because of life safety. And I'm not saying we should be exact, but does this address those issues that we heard 2 years ago? Simply.
Lisa, you're not shy.
Well, I was getting ready to unmute myself anyway. Larry, that is a very good question. And let me put it to you this way. Have you ever had 3 people in the same room that all agreed on everything at the exact same time?
Ever had 2 people in the same room that agreed?
You know, I worked in medical for 16 years before I came to the building world almost 14 years ago. And I can honestly tell you, you know, thinking about it that way, that you've got that administrative and the clinical mind. You think about, you've got contractors and you've got the generational contractors that were taught by granddaddy and daddy and maybe even great granddaddy. Then you've got those that are willing to pick up the code book and read it and not assume that it's just, you know, reading Chinese and going forward to back. So is it going to fix the problem? No, it's not. I wish I could say that it would, but there are still a lot of contractors out there on the residential side. I won't speak for commercial, but I will speak for residential that wishes we didn't have codes. I can only beat my head against that wall so many times to explain to them why it is necessary, why it is federally mandated and all of those things. So Shane, I'm going to throw this one to you, big boy.
Well, I'll briefly say that, obviously to be in the city commit, to be part of the commission or to be part of city staff in the planning side or building side, or even as a fire safety side, you've got to have some thick skin, right? You're not going to be able to please everybody. And doing enough projects even outside the state, and I think I've mentioned this to Dave and Preston, where every municipality and county seems to have their hot button. And so the more consistency you can have, the better. We have certainly been in areas where we said, we can't wait to get back to Johnson City and build something. And we've had areas we said, wow, we didn't know it could get this easy. And so, there's a full gamut there, but I don't think Johnson City's unfair in any way. A couple of things that were discussed tonight, and Dave brought up one. I mean, the difference in the gauged wire, that's probably been on the books. I couldn't tell you how many years that has been a complaint in the building world. You've heard tons of residential spec builders that just said, I'll stay in the county because of several code issues, and that being a big one. So I think that's important. The Standpipe has, I can name 5 or 6 projects right now that guys really are still trying to lick their wounds of dealing with that scenario. And so, again, none of them have bad intent. I mean, all of them have good intent in regard. Are they better? Sure, but it comes with such a cost. Is it an offset for how much better it makes? And that's the tough dilemma that everyone in this room has. I mean, you can't ever argue, is it better? Is it just, can you justify the cost for how much better? And so, I appreciate everyone's thoughts on it. And to answer your question, Larry, I think these folks will still get a little bit of that, but I think you should feel good that it keeps creeping closer to where it's getting as equivalent as you can make it from my perspective.
And we're still going to give all those people Larry's phone number. So just so we're all clear.
Ben, did you have any other comment on that Larry's question?
Well, here's the phone, and it's going to Aaron tomorrow. So go ahead and call it.
Lisa and Shane definitely summed it up as no better than I could do. There will always be that. Is this necessary? Is this what really needs to happen with each construction project that comes about in any region, in any municipality? There will always be this, well, what is tailored fit to what we do here in this community? I feel that Johnson City, with adoption of this, it's going to be very comparable to what we're already seeing in Kingsport, where my firm is located at, what it looks like in Bristol, even now, with all their appendices, all their addendums, that you're going to still see pretty much across the board now. It will be fairly uniform with exceptions, but I still think that with this, as it was stated earlier, Johnson City will be very fair from a commercial construction standpoint. There won't be anything besides those 1 or 2 issues that may come up in the future that we're not seeing now, but maybe will come. This will always be not necessarily a sea of troubles, but we will see the ebb and the flow of what we feel is necessary and as far as the building codes, or unnecessary, or is this really justification of a safety issue, a cost issue? It'll always be that debate, but with this, it's definitely not going to hinder us.
Let me add
Mayor,
one last thing about my side of it. Everything is always up for interpretation. So I'm going to interpret something the way I read it, whether I'm in my feety pajamas or whether I'm sitting behind my desk and actually using my business brain. And then I'm going to act on what I have read in my interpretation of it. So unfortunately, when you have hundreds of interpretations, whether it be on the inspector's side or on the builder's side, there's always going to be room for questioning. But I do agree with what Shane and Ben said. I think we are closer than we've ever been, being able to keep it across the board where we're all trying to look at things in all of the municipalities the same, or as same as we possibly can be. I think we're definitely on the right track with this.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I guess I'm still left, and it's probably worth pointing out that I think it was Commissioner Calhoun's first or maybe second meeting when this issue first came up back in December of 2018, if I recall correctly. I think it was Commissioner Hunter's first meeting as well. And at the time, the international code was being brought and it had lots of amendments in it. And there was just some concern that we as a commission were being asked to vote on this big document, the international part having been vetted by an extensive process and fought over and debated the merits in all sorts of circles. And then we had layered on top of it all these amendments. And then that issue kind of went away to rear its head on Commissioner Calhoun's last meeting. So there's been a lot of water under the bridge now between the first time and now. And in that time, I think what we asked for, and we expressed, and I personally feel a readiness to deal with this, but I still don't feel like I fully understand the specific nature of the amendments that we're holding out for. I mean, I know how many there are, but I don't know the specific red line language. We don't like this in the International Building Code because we need it to say this other thing over here. And I realize that's complicated, but we're being asked to vote on something that's complicated. Dave made the point, some of these amendments, he didn't know where they came from. And I appreciate his honesty in that regard. I would feel much more comfortable dealing with the amendments one at a time, because let's keep in mind, there was only one amendment that somebody took issue with on Monday night. One. And 72 hours later, it miraculously resolved itself. I wonder how many of the others could be miraculously resolved if we looked at them one at a time. And so with that in mind, I'm going to make a motion to approve this on first reading, both the 2018 ICC and the 2017 Electric Code, with no amendments or appendices, purely as they are written. And then in January, we can deal one by one with amendments and appendices.
I'll second that, but for clarification, when you say one by one, I mean, in January, you're talking about like doing a workshop and we address each one of them in that one workshop so that then we can make a determination on them?
I think probably we need to look at how many they're going to be. And then I think we probably need to plan either for one or two different sessions, depending on how many there actually end up being. And then I think for now, let's deal with the international codes that have been vetted by the two different issuing organizations.
Sure. And then I guess my second question to that would be, are you making a motion to adopt this when say currently, and then within the next 30 days, we will make the amendments? Because I guess my question.
No, I guess what I'm saying is we're going to adopt these two codes. and staff can bring amendments when they're ready to bring amendments
Because
and
our
make the
requirement,
case for those amendments.
our requirement from the state level is that we adopt the code, and then we could come back anytime, you know, and do an amendment, correct? I mean, we could come back 6 months from now and do an amendment, right? We just have to make sure we have a code that's up to date within the state.
Allow me to interject just a little bit. There are many amendments that are based on the state level. So some of the amendments are also, but I don't mind to do a workshop and go through and highlight and explain all of those. I don't mind to do that at all.
If there's not a rush, there's not a rush to pass this, which Mr. Peterson has informed me, there's not a rush to pass this. Why don't we have the workshop about the amendments before we pass anything? So we're telling the builders, this is what it is, instead of changing it midway after we adopt the first reading or the second reading.
I don't have, I see our three guests here tonight are shaking their head. That would be okay. What the Vice Mayor, I think, is really suggesting at this point, if we act tonight, is to separate the 2018 building codes from the amendments and appendices. So we have an opportunity to review what those really are. Kind of gets back to what we were talking about a minute ago. You know, have our local amendments been peer reviewed, examined, you know, all those kind of things like the building codes are. But from a procedural standpoint, we will continue to operate under the building codes we have right now with the amendments that were approved years ago. So what's your preference, commissioners? Do you want to just delay the whole thing until January?
Well, and again, it's on first reading. Even if we pass it today, this won't get its third reading until the first meeting of January, correct?
Correct. It's scheduled for January. If it's okay, based on the way that I heard the motion made, and I certainly understand, or at least I believe I understand what you were attempting to do, Vice Mayor, in terms of simplifying the codes down to, or trimming them down to 2018 plus 2017 NEC. Unfortunately, it's not that simple when you get to, for example, the Energy Conservation Code, which involves multiple years. And so the other is, I do agree with the comment that was made that if we were to adopt, you know, after 3 readings, a version of these codes and then bring forth amendments later, it could be a real problem, because permits will begin being issued under a set of codes that will then be amended later. It is best from a customer service perspective to adopt a set of codes with the appropriate amendments and appendices, and then just get that done. And then we're all off and running using the same hymnal. And so I would respectfully ask that if we do want to vet each one of these, that we just simply hold on any action on first reading. And
I'm happy to do that. That's what we said we wanted to do in December of 2018. And then this conversation largely went silent until here in the last month. And so I guess I would say to staff, you know, recognize that we're ready to move on. We're not going to vote on stuff where we're just sort of, oh, there's 17 amendments here and 2 over there, and it's better than the last batch of amendments. Boy, were they bad. This is way better than that. That's not the measure I want to use.
Sure.
And so whenever we do this, and it needs to come quickly. I don't want to be in a year asking, oh, whatever happened to all those building code things we were talking about in December of 20. So whatever allows you to get to that end goal quickest, I'm fine. So if you would prefer I withdraw the motion, I'm happy to do that. But just know each one of these amendments needs to stand on their own. And a lot of them are going to maybe face some stiff questions.
Sure. And if I could just add quickly, I can't speak to the groundwork that was done prior to my arrival, November 26th of 2018. And it's funny you mentioned the December meeting. That too was my first meeting to attend as a staff member. So since that time, I can say that, and then when Mr. McClellan stepped into his role as the Development Services Manager in December of last year, he has done a phenomenal job in taking these codes and literally dragging them through the dirt with the other communities in our region. And that was something that when he stepped into that role, one of his primary charges is that as project advocate or development advocate. He has really stepped up and met with, engaged. He actually was the one in our region who initiated many of these meetings and conversations with Washington, Sullivan County, Greenville, Greene County. So anyway, I'll hush on that, but I applaud what he's done. And so what's been brought to you has been vetted at a staff level, but I certainly understand where you're coming from in terms of the importance of the vote. And so we can bring each of these amendments and explanations as to why we are proposing them. Be happy to do that.
And I want to echo what you said. I think Dave has done a tremendous amount of good so far. I just don't want to be adopting documents that have amendments in them that I can't easily identify. And at least, like, to use Lisa's words, I read it to mean what I think it means, and it means that to me. I want us to go through and have a conversation about each one of those things, because the one amendment that got questioned on Monday isn't even in the packet today.
Sure.
So I'm just wondering how many other amendments might we remove if we subject them to just a little bit of scrutiny.
Sure.
And again, I agree. Preston, Dave, y'all done a good job. And one of the key things I had asked for when I came on was, why do we have local amendments that are different than those that are 20 minutes down the road or just down the road from us? These are life safety things. The things that create life safety issues in Johnson City shouldn't be much different than the ones in Kingsport, Bristol, Washington County. They're not dealing with hurricanes and we're dealing with tornadoes. We live in the same mountainous region. So, we all have flood zones. We all have, the same type of issues. So, it still kind of boggles my mind a little bit that, Kingsport would have 6 amendments and we'd have 4 and they're different or whatever. And again, I know, different scenarios happen, but we also should be looking at the scenarios that happen in Kingsport to say, that could happen in Johnson City and vice versa. And so, I applaud the regional look that you've taken that lead on with, Dave, because that's, in my opinion, an important thing, not just for, simplification for builders, but also just to make sense, of how to build in our community, in our region. And so the amendments, I think we need to, as a commission, look at those. I agree with Joe that, it's been 2 years and I know we've had transition of staffing, but you all are very informed on what these are. And then, many of the builders and the associations can take the time. We're talking a total of 20 roughly amendments across all of these lines. We should be able to get this expedited as far as not just explanation from city staff, but also input from those who actually have to, apply these amendments and appendices. So, I do want to make sure that we keep this on a front burner and get this done before
I think there are a couple of things we need to do. Dave, on one thing, I guess Monday night's kind of the first time we even started talking about appendices. So we need a appendices 101, I think. At least I do. I won't comment for anybody else. But so one thing, Commissioner Hunter, you'll need to withdraw your second of the motion that Vice Mayor made.
Yeah, and I'll withdraw. And again, Dave, I don't want you to take this. I mean, I know you've put a lot of work into this and you've done a great job. So please don't take this the wrong way. I think we can. Joe makes some good points that we really need to look at these.
I don't take it personally in any means. I'm ready to give you explanation for everything we've got here as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I'd like to get it done. I've actually held back a lot because I didn't want to get you all in the weeds. I didn't really think that you wanted to be there. But now that I know, I think a workshop's a great idea. That'll give us that dedicated time to really do it. So
we don't want to be in the weeds, but we just think this is an important enough issue of lasting impact that if we have a responsibility for voting on it,
sure,
we need to be able to justify to Shane Abrams after the vote. Well, I voted for that because that third amendment, man, that's make or break for me, but right now I wouldn't be able to justify that.
Totally understood.
Well, I think what we want is a well-informed commission, since we're voting on some things that just have tremendous impact throughout the community, and we want to get it right the first time. So is there a motion to defer this to maybe the second meeting in January of 2021? And during that time, then can have a workshop prior to that?
Mayor, I have asked.
Yes, sir.
I've asked Preston, Beth, and Dave to get a workshop set up next week. If you all are ready to dive in, we can be ready one day next week, perhaps Thursday. And I think in 2 hours, we can walk you through this whole thing.
Perfect.
And I think it would be helpful for those in the building and construction development side to be aware of our agenda and just so that they can know where they may have an interest to sit in, because I think that's the other part of where this has been a helpful dialogue, how it impacts them as well.
Well, and to add to that, Lisa, I would ask that, you get input from all the people within your association, but again, it's a public meeting, but if you could limit it to, one or two people to come with you, that would be great, just so that we can be efficient with time management.
Yes, I can rein them in if that is what you're asking for. And may I make one more statement about the code's adoption? And that is, when you all were asking about why Kingsport did what they did, why they have the amount of amendments they have as opposed to what we're doing. I don't know how much knowledge you have of this, but 2 years ago, Kingsport did jump out and they adopted the 2018 codes across the board and the 2017 National oh my gosh, I really need to just take a nap. National Electrical Code across the board without really evaluating it and looking at the amendments that needed to be done. And then their amendments started coming in after the fact. So there was a lot of issue because of that. What we feel like Johnson City has done, what Dave and Preston have done, as Dave was going through all of this, they waited for the state of Tennessee. Our biggest concern back in 2018, when this was brought up the very first time, was the fact that we felt like our municipalities were jumping ahead of what the state of Tennessee was doing when we were working with them, working with Gary Farley in the fire marshal's office and working with them on the codes. So what we appreciated was the fact that Johnson City did acknowledge that and stopped what they were doing and waited. And then when the state of Tennessee adopted, now you all are looking at it adopting what the state of Tennessee adopted. So don't know if that's clarifying anything at all, but that is why we've been appreciative of what Johnson City has done. And we didn't jump out and argue like we kind of did a little bit in 2018.
Thank you, Lisa. We knew that as well, and we knew it would be, much better for us to get that state opinion on these things before we dove into it. But okay, so we're going to try to get the workshop Thursday the 17th in the afternoon before our meeting. And if everybody's okay with that, let's just have a motion to defer, and then we'll work out the details later.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
Was that a motion, John?
Oh, yeah, I will. Yeah,
Oh,
that'd be a motion.
okay.
Yeah, I'll make a motion on that and to defer. And then, of course, I was thanking Pete for putting that together.
Oh,
And that
okay.
would be the 17th of December.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Is
I
there a
would
second?
second that.
All right.
Second.
Any other comments, Ms. Jennings?
I'm sorry. Let me make sure I got the motion correct, because you were suggesting to defer to the second meeting in January. Are
No,
we saying
just
something
X that
different
one
now?
out. Yeah, that
Okay.
wasn't a motion. I was just suggesting, but the motion was
Second.
just going to be to defer.
Second, oh, just to defer with no meeting? Okay.
Correct.
Okay. I'm ready. I'm sorry.
Okay.
What's the
Commissioner-
motion? I thought John's motion was that we would do the workshop on the 17th.
We will. I didn't really, this is just because it's on the agenda that we're going to defer it. And
Defer the
just
meeting, the consideration.
procedurally, we're going to have a workshop on the 17th. I don't know
Okay.
that we need that in the motion, but
Okay.
No, we don't.
So it's a motion to defer.
Consideration.
Okay.
it's
Thank you.
just housekeeping on the agenda.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. I think we have a motion and a second.
I think we do. Okay, Commissioner Calhoun.
So after 2 years, I still don't get to vote on it. Yes.
Commissioner Fowler.
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise.
Yes.
Mayor Brock.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Lisa and Shane and Ben. We appreciate you dialing in tonight.
Mayor, as a point of clarification, you all want to wait and do the workshop the 17th rather than the 10th? What I had originally thought was we could do the workshop next Thursday, which is the 10th.
Oh, okay.
And you could probably take action on this on the 17th.
What time were you thinking?
17th, then you won't be ready for first reading until at least the first meeting in January, perhaps the second.
What time were you thinking on the 10th, Pete?
Staff's here from 8 to 5 and as late as you want us to stay. Whatever works for you guys, we can, for the commission, we'll make it work.
If we could not do it between 5 and 6:30, that would be great for me.
Could we just do it like from the lunch hour into the afternoon or something?
I'm good with that personally.
I'm okay. Aaron will have been sworn in, so he can have his first meeting. I know he's watching. Aaron, we're already committing you now.
And since he's not here, I say we make him chairman of the meeting. He's like responsible. It's like a church meeting. It's on him.
Okay, we'll shoot for noon on Thursday, the 10th.
No, I can't do it at noon, but later in the afternoon. Are y'all okay to do it later in the afternoon?
What is, I mean, like 1 or 1:30? Or are you talking about 4:30 or 5?
Well, there's 2, 3, and 4.
Wow, okay,
It's
yeah,
somewhere
just
in there.
suggest a time. I would rather not. It would be helpful to me if it could be done by 5:30.
Yeah, because I've got my other employers.
Yeah.
I've got to report to their board meeting at 5.
Okay, I could probably do it as early as 1 o'clock. I'll just have to move something a little bit earlier if I can. Would 1 o'clock work?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Okay, Pete, did you get that? 1 o'clock on
1
Thursday the
o'clock.
10th?
1 o'clock on the 10th, and we'll have lunch So for those of you who are going to have to leave something and come straight here, there'll be something here to eat for you. Thank you. All right, your next order of business is ordinance number 4759-20. An ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, being part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519, entitled an ordinance to adopt a code of laws and ordinances for the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to repeal all laws and ordinances in conflict therewith and amendatory thereof by changing from R2 low density residential zoning to R2C low density residential zoning and RM5 manufactured home park zoning portions of certain properties with tax map ID 53G Group A parcel 11.01 and tax map 53G Group A parcel 11.02 is ready for your consideration on second reading and public hearing. Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Mayor, I'll share my screen. I've just got a single shot here for you. I'll try to keep it nice and simple. Please let me know if you can see that.
Yes.
Thank you. This piece of property here on McKinley Road, do want to note that it is completely surrounded by the county. So this property plus the McKinley Road right-of-way is the only property in this area right here that is currently in the city corporate limits. The property owner, who I believe is on the call based on information from Wendy Graham, is seeking to ultimately subdivide the manufactured homes from the stick-built home, from the single-family home that fronts onto McKinley Road. So using the image on the screen, you can see that what he is seeking to do is to change the R2 zoning to R2C, which would be in this polygon right here. And then this small portion that is made up of another or a portion of another manufactured home plus the driveway, take that to RM5. That'll give clean zoning for the existing manufactured units and the appropriate R2C zoning for the single family stick built structure. I believe he is seeking to sell the stick built structure. And so in order to do that, he needs this subdivision. And the rezoning is a prerequisite for the subdivision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Preston. Are there any other questions of staff before I open the public hearing? All right, commissioners, I will, and we can go back to the screen, Wendy.
Oh, forgive me.
Very good. I will open the public hearing on ordinance 4759-20 of the property of 3323 McKinley Road. Ms. Graham, do we have someone waiting in the green room?
Yes, just a minute.
All right.
Mr. McDavid, can you unmute your phone, please?
Mr. McDavid, there we go. You're off mute. You're addressing, I don't know if you can see us, but we're on Zoom tonight. I opened the public hearing to speak for or against this request. And if you would speak to this request and give us your input.
Yes, I just want to basically make the lot on the house smaller, just so I can cut it off from the trailer park and probably in the future sell the house.
Okay. All right, commissioners, are there any questions of Mr. McDavid? Okay, thank you, Mr. McDavid. We appreciate it. Is there anyone else here to speak for or against this request?
No, ma'am.
Very good. Thank you. I will close the public hearing. Commissioners?
Move approval.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And any other questions, comments? Okay, Ms. Jennings.
Commissioner Calhoun,
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler,
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter,
Yes, ma'am.
Vice Mayor Wise,
Yes.
Mayor Brock.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. McDavid.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Your next order of business is consideration of ordinance number 4757-20. An ordinance to amend Article 2 definitions, Article 6 use requirements by district, Article 9 sidewalk regulations, Article 11 parking regulations, and Article 12 landscape regulations in the City of Johnson City zoning ordinance as it relates to child care facilities is ready for your consideration on third reading and public hearing. Mr. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Mayor, I will do a quick screen share and really just open it up for any questions if the commission has them. I will go back to the top of my screen here. There have been no changes since the, there we go. There have been no changes as we've gone through first and second reading. In short, we are looking to improve our child care regulations, make them consistent with state regulations, and also remove barriers to entry to improve opportunities for those who seek to provide child care and do so in a properly licensed way that can be inspected and maintained and monitored by the state. The proposal that is brought to you has been approved by the Planning Commission. We are seeking to make consistent our definitions with the state and, as noted, remove barriers to entry for both family child care homes, which are the residential style daycares, as well as for the commercial centers in your multifamily mixed use and commercial areas. Again, recommendation by the Planning Commission was to approve, and you have approved it on first and second reading. I'll turn it back to you, Mayor.
Very good, Mr. Preston. Thank you so much. And thank you for the work y'all have done on this. This is going to be a great help in our community as we are in dire need of more childcare facilities. And if we can make it a little bit easier to get in business or to stay in business, that's a plus for everybody. Commission, is there a motion? Oh, public input. I'm sorry. I will open for any public input. Ms. Graham, is there anyone who would like to comment on this and waiting?
No, ma'am.
All right, I will close the public hearing. Thank you. Commissioners, if you can get a screen back, thank you. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Okay.
Second.
First, a motion and a second. Any other comments? All right, Ms. Jennings, call the roll.
Commissioner Calhoun,
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler,
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise,
Yes.
Mayor Brock.
Yes.
Mayor, the next order on your order of business on your agenda is public input. And we will have one other business item after that.
Correct. Okay. Ms. Graham, before I open it up, is there anybody that has dialed in? I haven't gotten any emails or anything.
No, ma'am.
All right. All right. We will forego the public input then. We'll go on to the other item.
Next order of business is consideration of the Johnson City Convention and Visitors Bureau bylaws and an appointment of interim board members. I will turn this over to Mr. Bob Wilson. He and Charlie had worked very closely with Ms. Whitson and Andy Hart to get this document before you, and certainly want to thank Sunny for her guidance in getting this document together.
Yeah.
So,
Could we bring Brenda Whitson in? And there we go. We just need to get Brenda in here. We see Andy.
There she is.
There you are. All right. Very good. Thank you. All right. Mr. Wilson?
This committee, consisting of Mr. Stahl, myself, Andy Marquette, Brenda, Sonny Sandos, and Keisha Sean, working on pulling the bylaws together for the new CVB. Essentially, the bylaws, I just hit the highlights on that. It's a 9-member board serving 3-year staggered terms. What we're proposing is an initial board of 6 members that will serve for 6 months to kind of jumpstart the board and get them started, to give them guidance and direction. The full board would be appointed with the appointments in June that would start in July. That would be the 9-member board that would be staggered. 3 members would be from the lodging industry. 3 would be representatives from tourism, hospitality, entertainment, retail, finance, or special events. Would have a permanent member seat from the Northeast Tennessee Tourism Association, with either the CEO or chairperson, and 2 city commission representatives, one of which could be the city manager or his designee. The board would have the responsibility for establishing operating policies, monitoring, evaluating goals. Also would have full and complete power to transact all business and manage affairs, including the appointment of executive director. Officers proposed are a chairperson, vice chair, secretary, treasurer. And any amendment to the bylaws would require the approval of the city commission. There's also 6 members that are proposed to be appointed for a 6-month term beginning in January. These are what's the members being proposed are Andy Marquette, Shannon Castillo, Steve Lewis, Don Raines, Drew Bedard, and Bob Wilson, myself. These are 6-month appointments. And any of these members could apply, just like we regularly have appointments in the application process for the commission. So this would get the new CVV started, and we are requesting and recommending approval of the bylaws and appointment of these 6 individuals for a 6-month board term.
I will ask Commissioner Fowler, he's our representative on the CVB, if you want to give a level of support for us to move in this direction.
After reading through this, I think they did a great job, and I do not see one problem with the way they have it organized, especially that they'll keep working on it for the next 6 months until we get the finalized version, but it looks great right now.
Very good. And when would this committee of 6 begin?
January.
In January, okay. All right, Ms. Whitson, is there any comments you would like to make to us, or Mr. Marquardt? Sorry, I went blank there.
Well, I can't stress enough the support that we have received from the city and from our partners in this, and just want to thank you all so much for that support and for your faith in us and what we're doing, and thank Pete very much so as well for all of his hard work and his leadership in this as well. But I think that the group that we have recommended to you as far as to serve on this transitional team, are very involved, in the community, and have been involved with the CVB and are very knowledgeable. So I think that helps us to really jumpstart the whole process.
Good. Andy?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Brenda said. The past couple of months and moving through this process has been really efficient. I believe Vice Mayor Wise advised us to move quickly, but I will say that it hasn't been sloppy. It's been a very efficient process that's been accurate and on point so far, and we are well down the road. So again, thank you to the City Commission and the city staff that's helped us through this process, and we are well on our way.
Very good. Thank you. All
Actually,
right,
Mayor,
commissioners. Yes, go ahead, Bob.
sorry, if I may, I'd like to change my answer. There was some email exchange today from some of the proposed board members, and I would think we wouldn't start in January. Maybe we just ought to start tomorrow, and there'll be some things coming up on this that we'll be discussing. So I would suggest that we start as soon as we're appointed.
Okay.
Just in case we need to do something.
I would agree with that. It would, I would think to keep everything running and to keep everything fluid, I think that's a good idea.
So,
And just as a mayor, just as a relate, I was reading an article this morning about, I think it was about VRBO, but the point was VRBO had kind of cratered after COVID hit, and what they had repurposed their marketing on day trips and short distance kind of travel.
I saw
And
that
as I
too.
was reading that, I thought, that there's an opportunity, because we've got a lot of people within a day trip of here. And so I think Bob's right on point. Let's empower this group to get to work as soon as there's an opportunity to do so, because there are opportunities out there. Challenges like we face right now, the flip side of that coin is an opportunity.
Very good. Now, Bob, do we need to separate the approval of the bylaws from the appointment of the temporary board?
You could, or you could do it. I mean, I think it's optional. Do it either way. Sonny,
Let me ask this quick question too, Brenda or Andy. You currently have a board. It's an advisory board. We're going to have this transitional board. What will happen to the current board that you have? Will it continue to meet, or as an advisory group?
We have dissolved that board currently. So our focus was on creating the transition, the steps necessary, and that was a rather large board with, some people that are heavily involved and others that aren't. So we felt that transitioning away from that and getting to a committee structure for the next 6 months until the full board's approved in July was the best way to go. Obviously, a lot of those people on that current or on the council care about tourism, the CBB, and they're a phone call away if we need their input or advice.
Okay, very good. Commissioners, y'all want to separate it or want to do it all in one?
I'm happy to make a motion to approve staff's recommendation of both in one motion.
Second that.
And would you, Bob, go ahead and repeat the 6 members that we would be appointing for the minutes?
Andy Marquardt, Shannon Castillo, Steve Lewis, Don Raines, Drew Bedard, and Bob Wilson.
Very good. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other comment, question? All right, Ms. Jennings.
Commissioner Calhoun,
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler,
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise,
Yes.
Mayor Brock.
Yes. Onward.
Onward. Thank you.
Mayor, that takes you to the end of your scheduled agenda.
Okay. Commissioners, gosh, we have a lot going on. Several of us were out in the park today decorating Christmas trees, along with Brenda and the CVB. We have 66 amazing Christmas trees in Founders Park that tomorrow at 5 o'clock will be the official virtual lighting of those trees. It is an amazing thing. I did my final walkthrough late this afternoon, and I mean, talk about go all out. Some of those trees, and we'll have a crew going through there tomorrow at 5 o'clock, looking to judge and coming up with the top 3 trees. From some of the stuff I've seen, I think they will rise to the top for sure. But we've just heard nothing but good. And Peter, really want to talk about with a lot of gratitude. I know it was a lot of extra work for Public Works, but they have just come through like shining stars, I'll tell you, and created this magical place, hopefully for our kids to see. And I had an older couple tell me, this is not just for kids, this is for us too. So they're absolutely right. We do want to thank Bright Ridge. They were out later this afternoon. They have sponsored all the lights on all the trees. So it's powered by Bright Ridge. And so our Public Works Bright Ridge, and of course the Blue Plum Group, who have organized all the different businesses who have come in. And I don't know how many businesses have signed up. Brenda, you may know, some have bought more than one tree,
Right.
which now people are fighting over the trees, but you know, we probably have at least 60 businesses and groups who have come in together that have really kind of created this magical place. So hope everyone will WJHL is going to cover it live at 5 o'clock, the lighting tomorrow. And it will be live streamed as well, and people can watch it later too. But I know people will be out in mass. But here's the deal. We're requesting for groups to travel one way. It will be marked on the sidewalks with arrows going in I believe it's going to be clockwise direction, I think. Never mind. I don't know. It'll be one of the two, but follow the arrows. You'll be in small groups, but please wear a mask, wear a face covering. You're going to see that throughout the park at the display of the trees for sure. And do not be in big, huge groups, small groups, small family groups. And because you'll be going one way, you won't be running into people coming the other. So that will help a lot. So anyway, it's a good thing. Anything else from commissioners? John, you look like you want to say something. No?
You're
Okay.
muted.
Just, Larry, again, you're definitely going to be missed. On the plus side, personally, I will become the Calhoun Gets family favorite commissioner once again. That's an inside joke, but no, yeah, I'm excited about tomorrow night. I've heard, from many people across not just Johnson City, but the region, the buzz that has been created about our Founders Park this Christmas season. Excited to see not just Founders Park, but in the neighborhoods. I haven't seen so many Christmas lights so well done from the Gump, Strawberry Fields, and several others, where just people in the community have really, gotten in the spirit this year, and it's exciting to see.
And we also want to thank Keisha and her crew. They seem to be involved in most everything too. They've done a great job with working with the Blue Plum Group and bringing all these groups together to make it happen. So thanks a lot there. So, Larry.
Well, Mayor, there's one other thing. One thing
Yep.
I did not complete, a task that I was assigned to do. If you remember, well before a year ago, I had a group of people at ETSU working on some presentations about immunizations. And when the pandemic started, I talked to those people and they said, we need to sort of back off on that right now, just let things occur. And there was an article in the paper about a significant drop in children being immunized for measles and polio. And I got that group back together virtually, and they would still like to come and present their information at some point in time, probably after the holidays. So as a private citizen, I'll probably be contacting you guys to see if I can't get an audience for the people from public health, pharmacy and medicine that did some work on this and did some research. And we've got, that group will continue to work. And I think there's a representative of on their task force from the Johnson City school system. So you'll be seeing that probably in early 2021 on an initiative to try to make sure we get those children immunized, because right now there's a lot of kids and parents that are fearful to go and get their children immunized for the measles and polio. And we don't need additional issues going on. So that'll come back to you guys, and that's something that I've left undone, if you will.
We would really appreciate that, and particularly to talk about the vaccine administration, for COVID. And I'm glad you brought that up because I think all of us got a text here during our meeting, and it's worthwhile to mention this to the public. It's from the New York Times, and it is a chart identifying the top 10 cities in the nation with the fastest number of COVID cases increasing. The top 4 cities are from Tennessee: Athens, Cleveland, Greenville, and Tullahoma. Johnson City comes in at number 7. And then you've got cities from California, Alabama, Virginia, Alabama. As someone said in the text, that's not a good list to be on. So we just need to make another appeal to our citizens. I had another email today for somebody who said, what are y'all going to do to stop this? Well, there's no magic bullet. It's all within us. It is about individual responsibility. And everybody needs to get up every day, leave their house if they have to leave, and say, what am I going to do not to spread this virus? And what am I going to do to keep from, being close to somebody who could spread it to me? And all of our businesses, we need to implore them to only serve the customer and protect their employees by having good standards, meeting all CDC guidelines and standards. So we can't say that loud enough. When you make a list like this, it's not good. And so we need to do everything, every individual in this city.
I feel like we've lost the mayor.
Just to let you know, she is on Comcast.
And I think she's in like phase 8. So there was no privilege given her when Bright Ridge mapped out who would get to be first in line for their internet.
That's true.
Jenny, are you still there?
I just came back. It's my computer. Yeah, I don't know where it left off, but somebody can finish what I was saying.
we blamed it on Comcast. So
it is. Well, you did it right.
Okay.
Yep.
John did.
No, actually, my computer's about to die. All right. Well, with no further ado, we will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Mhm.